Hi, I'm Brian Walters. I'm one of the managing partners at Walters Gilbreth. I've been licensed to practice law in Texas since 1996, and I'm board certified in family law. I get a lot of questions about conservatorship in Texas. What does it mean? How does it work? Can I be a joint managing or sole managing conservator? So I'll answer those questions. So first thing is, what is conservatorship? It is the decision-making authority. It's the right to make decisions for your children. And the first thing to know about that is that most people have the title, most parents have the title, 95% or more. Anytime there's generally a parent that wants to be involved that's functioning, they're going to be titled joint managing conservators. But the title really doesn't mean much. Like I said, almost everybody gets that title. It's the details that matter, not surprisingly. And there's about 11 different parts of conservatorship, with a bunch of other ones, maybe another 10 or 15 that are so minor that they're really not worth mentioning. But there's 11 that are kind of the big 11, and I would even say you could narrow those down to about 3. So the big one, which is what most people call custody, is the right to establish a residence of the child. We actually don't use the word custody in Texas, but that's what it is. And what that means is my home is going to be the primary home of these children. It's going to be the home that's their legal home. It's going to be the home for purposes, most of the time, for what school they go to. So that's really the most important thing. And in our system, you can agree that there's not a primary home, but if you go to court, the judge must choose one of the two parents as being the primary home of the child. Usually that's a very complicated discussion, but generally that's the parent who's done most of the parenting during the relationship that they had together and doesn't have a problem. But it's a lot more complicated than that. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. The second most important thing, I believe, for most parents is the right to make educational decisions for the child. So now, again, in most cases, there aren't that many to make, and this is going to be sort of like the medical decisions, that most kids go to the public school near their primary residence. Most kids are normal students. They are not going to face a decision about whether to repeat a grade or accelerate a grade. They're not going to have major behavioral problems or learning disabilities, fortunately, but that does happen. And so that's usually where these educational decision-making powers become more important, is when you have a child that's an outlier, that either has a learning disability or maybe is exceptionally bright, and you've got decisions to make about putting them in advanced classes or accelerating a class or something like that. So those can be important, but I don't hear that many battles over that. And lastly is medical decision making, and that's also should broadly include psychological and psychiatric care. But there are those particular kids who've got specific situations, either medical or psychological or psychiatric issues, that may involve decisions about medication, treatment, care, those type of things. And that can be a really serious issue for a lot of parents who have kids like that. So that can be sometimes the most heavily litigated part of a case. Anyway, that's a quick intro to conservatorship in Texas. There's lots more to discuss and learn if you so desire. Thank you for listening to this, and please contact us if you have more questions or would like to discuss things further.